Good evening, everyone. This is Michael Malik here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for November 27th, 2020, recorded around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Taking a wide look across the tropical Atlantic this evening, other than the satellite glitch, there's not much that's going on out there. We do have a storm system out across the southern United States right now that is dumping a lot of rainfall and producing some sporadic strong to severe storms. But other than that, it is pretty much quiet across most of the United States at the moment. In the tropical world, we do have two systems that we're really watching. First of all, with a system located near Bermuda. Now, this only has a 30% chance of developing over the next 5 days and is given invest area 99L, which is located right in here. And this little swirl of basically no convection is generally meandering around, but expected to move generally towards the north and east over the next several days and get phased with an upper level system that's expected to develop across the Midwest and eastern half of the United States, and it could bring some pretty potent winter and severe weather to parts not only of Ohio, Pennsylvania, Indiana, but severe weather for the southern states all the way down into northern Florida by mid this week. Now, we're also watching another area of disturbance out here in the subtropical region that is expected to kind of dip down towards the Canary Islands. This does have a 20% chance of developing over the next 5 days, but nothing really of great concern at the moment. You can see these two features highlighted on the National Hurricane Center 5 day outlook. Again, we are closing in on the last 3 days of the hurricane season. It's hard to believe, really. By tomorrow, we will have, counting tomorrow, we have 2 more days remaining, 2 full days remaining left of the hurricane season, and then we are done for the year in terms of the calendar for the hurricane season. But these two systems will be lingering throughout the next several days. And of course, if the next name storm does develop, the next name would be Kappa. We are very far into the Greek alphabet this year, but again, there is the island of Bermuda. There's our tropical wave right there, or a tropical threat. Really nothing to be worried about. This might try to curve back towards the north and west, but then phase with an upper level system and move back out towards the north and east. So, not really expecting any significant concerns from this. The other system is near the Canary Islands and the Azore Islands. The Azores being there, the Canary Islands being right there. This really doesn't pose much of a threat, again, at 20%, but I don't really see the signs of this developing into a tropical system, although we could see a subtropical hybrid system develop out here late week into a very potent area of low pressure that could affect the Canary Islands with heavy rainfall, so something to watch here over the next several days. Now, if we take a closer zoomed in look here at Invest 99L, again, we can see that generally right now the pattern is favoring some pretty strong upper level winds cutting across here, and we'll look at that here more in a moment. But you notice pretty strong upper level wind from the southwest blowing towards the north and east. So all of this deep convection out here, or really kind of shallow to moderate convection, is getting pushed towards the north and east, and we have a just an exposed low level circulation. It's probably not even closed at the moment. So, but of course, if this does gain, thunderstorms near the center, this could easily tighten it up. Since it is a relatively small area here, this actual vortex is relatively small, but this definitely could acquire some subtropical or tropical characteristics, but not really a significantly high likelihood of doing so. Now, most of the models indicate that this could become a tropical storm. However, this is mainly after the time where it's phased with an upper level low. So although these intensity guidance, most of them is trending towards the north and east, it's more so, or not towards the north and east, but toward, up and towards the right in terms of intensity. Even though they're trending that way, this is basically phasing with an upper level low within 24 to 36 hours or so, as we are trying to kind of nail down everything. So it's very important to realize that this probably won't even be a tropical storm, but there's always some outside chance it really does. Now, one of the reasons why I don't really give this a high likelihood of developing is taking a look at the vertical wind shear. This is the 200 millibar wind map at about 39,000 feet in the atmosphere. So we're looking way high up there. And basically, storms, tropical systems need a calm wind layer all the way up through, 200 millibars, even higher, closer up towards, 150 to 100 millibars. So we're talking almost up there in the stratosphere. We really need a calm wind profile all the way up there. And you can easily see that's not the case. What's kind of interesting is this subtropical jet over here is almost like an El Nino pattern. And it's very weird because we're in a La Nina, so you would typically expect to see a trough that is more persistent over the north, like this, not down here. So that's a little interesting because that creates a lot of enhanced shear across the region. But you can definitely see how this jet is still kind of interacting all the way through the tropical Atlantic at this time. And we have several little other features in here: a tropical upper tropospheric trough, or a TUT, that is creating also some vertical wind shear. But you generally just see a bunch of unfavorable conditions out here. And by the time our low gets here, this is 24 hours from now, you can see that we're already starting to get an upper level system developing out here. And again, the subtropical jet towards the south, very weird for being in a La Nina pattern, but this is kind of what recurving typhoons can do in the West Pacific. But this is something to monitor, that there is a little bit of pocket here of a lighter shear, but you can definitely see that the storm is actually displaced from that, and it's trying to create its own outflow pool, and is actually getting some baroclinic forcing on it towards the north, which may help ventilate it a tad bit. But in terms of most of it, you've got strong west and southwest shears, so this really should, in fact, kill off the cyclone, and really should not allow for additional strengthening there. Now, if we go out in time, we can also see what's expected to develop here. We've got this really big upper level disturbance that is going to be sitting north of the Canary and Azore Islands. This is that other area for development under a very tight upper level anticyclone. So, this may have a shot at becoming a tropical depression or storm. The millibars here is just dropping like a rock, but this is likely a mid latitude cyclone and not a tropical cyclone at this time. And you can see this really sharp trough digging in. You can see these tight isobars here packed in. This definitely supports that we're going to be getting a very cold blast to develop across the north and slide all the way down here, and could get as far south as Georgia and South Carolina, and maybe even some freezing conditions across North Florida as well within the next 48 to 72 hours or so. So that will be something here to watch. Now, if we kind of switch gears here, we're going to be talking about the severe weather potential across the southeast next over the next few days. So today, day one, we have a marginal risk for severe storms generally across this area, really across the I-10 corridor. And the reason for that is you can see some showers and thunderstorms that are breaking out here, and some of them are producing some gusty winds, small hail, maybe even an isolated tornado or two. This is not the main threat we're going to be talking about. You can see that would just wither away, won't be of much concern for the next few days. Now, by the time we start getting into the weekend and into next week, by early next week, we're going to have an area of low pressure develop across the Arkansas, Mississippi region, really across the Arklatex region. And this low pressure region is going to generally move off towards the north and east. Now, this puts much of the south under a pretty good moisture return southerly flow affecting northward. So it's affecting a lot of Gulf of Mexico air down here, a lot of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, and it's surging that northward. So what we'll see here in the dew points in a moment is that moisture that's very limited as of right now, or what will be after a weak front passes through. That moisture return, as this front gets washed out, is going to surge northward again with this developing area of low pressure, and the gradient and the wind flow now becoming out of the south and blowing towards the north. So we have a fairly good moisture return profile, at least for parts of the area. And we'll talk about that here in a moment. But you can see a front that ends up developing and maybe even a line of storms. And then you can see this 540 decameter line. This is what is called a thickness line or a decameter line. And what this really shows us is the blues here. This is all freezing air. So you could have freezing air all the way pouring into Alabama and South Carolina. I mean, you can see that, the freezing layer exists all the way through coastal Carolina, all the way out to Dorchester and Collier County, Colleton County. Those counties, Walterboro area, definitely could see some very cool air and possibly even the first freeze of the year on December the 1st. So, talk about starting winter in a really big way. Here you go. But you can see this never really makes it into Florida, but there's definitely going to be, you can see where the front really is. These thickness gradients are very well stacked in here, and there's definitely that, advection here, and you're getting a lot of flow now coming out of the northwest behind this front. So, definitely going to be a lot of cold air shooting into Florida by next week. But if we take a look here at the severe weather parameters, if we look here at the dew point alone, we'll actually jump out to the Euro to check out the dew point. So you can see where we have the frontal boundary right now. It's kind of fairly easy to see that we have a boundary draped over parts of Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas at the moment. This is basically our cold front that's backing through here. And again, your moisture is going to be down here in that warm sector. Now you can see this front will eventually kind of clear out. It's going to start clearing out, and this front surges southward. But then what you start to see here is this is by Sunday morning by 12Z. So this is at 7 a.m. in the morning. We've got a lot of this moisture just sitting down here across the Florida Peninsula. The front never really crosses into Florida. It kind of stalls out over the panhandle. And so there's a lot of residual moisture just chilling back in here in that warm sector. So what you'll start to notice is as that low pressure is generated and the surface flow begins to respond and basically shifts towards the north, we start to get the flow that changes and that moisture return begins to surge northward. And you can see that we have a secondary front that's kind of coming in. We might have even another moisture surge later, within, maybe the 5th or whatever of December, but you can really see that moisture surge occur. Now, severe weather is going to be a bit limited. If we check out here in the open warm sector, this is Monday at 1 o'clock in the morning. And if we jump back to the precipitation by this time, we can see that if we go to Monday at 1 in the morning, most of the convection is already ongoing across portions of Georgia and the Carolinas. So if we back this up here, we'll back this up to Sunday. This is 12Z. Let's go out to roughly about 18Z. And we'll just kind of look for some uncontaminated relative soundings here. And you notice that there's moisture return and there's a fairly big wind, upper level wind, good shear values. But you're not going to get tornadoes in this type of profile. Now, again, what we would like to see is confidence that we're going to see a high moisture return profile. And even out here by Sunday night, we can see that we don't have that still. We have 66 over 64, so the dew point is there. But you can start to see that the temperature profile, the moisture profile, it just does some weird funky stuff in through here. And you're not going to get supercells or tornadoes in this type of profile. Now, with that being said, you can see that the mid-level Cape is only 11. So you're not probably going to get tornadoes very far south here. Now, the one thing I will caution is we could see some low-topped supercells. And you have to kind of go back in some of the gradient here, try to pick somewhat of an uncontaminated sounding, but it's a little bit hard to do that. But if you go back, like, let's just say where that other sounding was. If we actually go back and look here at the NAM forecast, and we'll kind of pick a sounding for 18Z, we'll go 21Z here on Sunday. We can see that what we get is maybe a little bit of higher relative humidity, dew point, and maybe a little bit better instability. Now, you could definitely see that the storm slinky in through here, showing these thunderstorms that would go up and they would tilt over. The hodograph is very curved. This is a very curved hodograph. So this would generally represent very favorable conditions for tornadoes. However, again, it's not a guarantee. Now, there could be some low top supercells that do try to take advantage of the shear in the first 0 to 3 kilometer range. So, with that being said, I would be inclined to definitely give a marginal risk for severe weather. And the Storm Prediction Center seems to agree with a marginal risk running from really from about Lake Charles, Louisiana, all the way up through the Carolinas, in through portions of the Outer Banks, southward, including most of coastal Carolina, or all of coastal Carolina, both Carolinas, and then all the way down north of Jacksonville and cutting off near Levy County and the end of the Tallahassee County warning area. So there does exist a chance for some severe weather potential, and there may even be a slight risk added if confidence arises in a higher dew point instability return. That's going to be the biggest key. Do those instability values increase substantially? And does the warm sector destabilize enough to allow for supercells in that environment? The wind profile is there, so we definitely could see some gusty thunderstorms. We could see some tornadoes, maybe some low top supercells, but I'm not forecasting a big event at this point, given the relative lack of confidence with the moisture return profile and with the amount of destabilization in the warm sector. So, with that being said, we'll see what happens here, but not really concerned about everything at the moment. But of course, we'll keep doing updates on this. All right. With that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley. I'll talk to you guys again some more tomorrow.